Next up, we got Johnny Munoz Jr. taking on Aoriqileng, and Aoriqileng is, a couple months younger here, but both guys are 30 years of age parity here. And you've got a guy with 25 professional fights in the Mongolian murderer, Aoriqileng. That's a scary name, isn't it? And he's 0-3 career to the submission. Not good. But what he is 9-1 career to the knockout. Last fight out, he got knocked out in the first round by Amin Zahabi. But Amin Zahabi is a knockout threat at this point in his career. I know that he wasn't always that way, but he has now gone out there and knocked out Draco Rodriguez and Aoriqileng easily in the first round. So I think he's got some power. He had some knockout wins on the Canadian regional scene as well back in the day. So I don't think that it's crazy to say that he's got some power in his hands. He's got some good timing, some natural ability. Shout out to the chat that says Montel has the same size hands as Ngannou. That's extremely impressive. Montel is running a 5 knockdown streak at the minute, 8-inch reach advantage for Montel, all great points. And our guy Easy Picks is going with Montel Jackson, round 2 knockout. So fair play to that. Back to this fight, we've got a fight where Aoriqileng has wins over Jay Perrin and Cameron Else in the UFC, but he's got losses to Jeff Molina, Cody Durden, and Amin Zahabi. So not a bunch of bad losses on his resume, but he's kind of struggled to find his place. He moved up to the bantamweight division seeking to have more success and more opportunities. And what ended up happening? He got knocked out brutally. He beat Jay Perrin, and Jay Perrin is not a very high-level guy, but he's 2-1 now in this weight class. So he's not a bad fighter, but he's also a guy that's got a lot to prove. At 2-3 in the UFC, with a finish loss, a knockout loss in the first round in his last fight. That was in June, guys. He's turning around. What is that? A little over 3 months later, a little less than 3 months later, basically 90 days turnaround after getting knocked out brutally to take this fight. And Johnny Munoz, on the other hand, went, 15 hard minutes with Daniel Willie Cat Santos. Daniel Willie Cat Santos, dangerous fighter, some big power, willing to walk guys down. He's 11-2 in the organization. He's got a win over John Sexy Mexi Castaneda via knockout. Lost to Julio Arce on short notice, but gave a good account of himself there. Only losses via decision. So this guy, Johnny Munoz Jr., went out there and put on a good fight. Ludovic Shalinian, he went out there and got the win over him. Lost to Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely has proven to be, a somewhat solid UFC fighter. He lost to Victor Henry and Javid Basharat. Those are 2 good names. He beat Simon Oliveira, Anthony Burchak, Geraldo de Freitas. He nearly knocked out Nate Maness. He lost to Brett Johns. So he's not a bad fighter either. He beat Chris Mutino, another guy who made it to the UFC. So I just feel like overall, Johnny Munoz Jr., he has the same 2-3 record in the UFC. But his losses, I think, are even of a higher quality. Daniel Santos, Tony Gravely, and Nate Maness. And, Nate Maness, a lot of people at the time did not think Nate Maness won that fight. Nate Maness was getting out-grappled in that fight. He was getting out-wrestled, but he landed a couple of shots. So I do think that when I look at this fight on paper, Johnny Munoz Jr., he's okay. He's got some pretty good skills. He's fought a pretty decent level of competition. But there's nothing that really stands out to me about his game. He beat Jamie Simmons by submission, but Jamie Simmons stinks and, and was undersized in that spot. So no disrespect to our guy, Jamie Simmons, but just like for the UFC level, he was just not there. And I don't know what to make of this matchup. Let's see some of the measurables here. I'm pulling this up right now as we speak, guys. So the measurables here are in favor of Johnny Munoz here. He's going to have a 2-inch height and reach advantage, 5'9" versus 5'7", and 71 inches against 69 inches here. But again, they're at age parity, so no huge advantages here, and it's a very closely lined fight. For me, that makes a lot of sense. But Munoz being knocked out several times against a guy with the name Murderer, I do think that that's a great point. I think that that's something to take a close look at. Library says the Stop Asian Hate parlay. I'm all aboard stopping Asian hate. You know that. So stopping Brazilian hate, Asian hate, whatever's appropriate on the given matchup, we will always do it. In this fight, I don't know that I feel super bullish. I feel like a pick'em price gut lean is kind of appropriate to me. And I'm going to have to dig deeper here to see who the side really is. But I guess tentatively, I'll go with Aoriqileng to get back on track here, because I've always thought Amin Zahabi is a little bit underrated. But in any case, I just don't feel super bullish on this fight. For me, the thing that's sending me over the edge is just the fact that this guy, I believe, is training with Fight Ready, Aoriqileng, and he's also got that devastating knockout power in his hands. And Johnny Munoz is just not that much of a knockout threat historically. So I think that he's probably more likely to be on the wrong end of a brutal knockout here.